Welcome to Simply Mindful. I'm your host, Maya. Today, we are diving deep into a question that I believe many of you have experienced, but perhaps felt too overwhelmed to voice. A listener recently reached out with a profound sense of exhaustion, asking, "Why do I feel constantly stressed even when there is absolutely nothing to be stressed about? It feels as though my brain is forcing me into a state of perpetual tension, and it's agonizing. I'm terrified that this feeling will never leave me. Is there truly a way out of this internal prison?" If you are feeling this way right now, I want you to take a deep, conscious breath and stay with me. I understand how isolating and truly torturous this experience can be. Today, we're going to deconstruct why your brain is behaving this way from a neurological perspective, and more importantly, how you can begin to navigate your way back to a state of safety and peace. To understand why we feel stressed in the absence of external threats, we must first acknowledge a fundamental truth about our biology. Our brain was designed for survival, not necessarily for happiness. Historically, our ancestors lived in environments where hypervigilance was a prerequisite for staying alive. The human brain developed a sophisticated, lightning-fast threat detection system, our amygdala and the broader limbic system, which acted as an internal radar for predators. In the modern world, while we no longer face the immediate threat of a saber-toothed tiger, this ancient hardware remains intact. In the absence of physical predators, this high alert system often misfires. It begins to perceive internal stimuli, our own thoughts, subtle bodily sensations, or even the fear of the future as existential threats. This is what we call a false alarm of the nervous system, but to your body, the chemical response is as real as if you were being hunted. You might wonder, why does my brain keep racing even when I'm just sitting still, trying to relax? This phenomenon is tied to a specific neural circuit known as the default mode network, or DMN. Think of the DMN as the brain's background processing unit. It is most active when we are not focused on a specific task in the outside world, when we are daydreaming, reflecting, or simply existing in a quiet space. The DMN is responsible for self-referential thought. It evaluates our past, predicts our future, and constantly scans for problems that need solving. For those struggling with chronic anxiety, the DMN becomes hyperactive and overloaded. Instead of providing healthy reflection, it enters a state of obsessive scanning, looking for something, anything that might be wrong. When it finds nothing in reality, it creates hypothetical scenarios to justify the feeling of unease. You aren't choosing to stress. Your brain's default setting has become stuck in a loop of diagnostic worry. There's another layer to this that we rarely discuss. The brain can actually become addicted to the chemistry of stress. When we are in a state of high alert, the adrenal glands flood our system with cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals provide a temporary surge of energy and focus, the fight or flight response. If your nervous system has been stuck in this state for a long duration, your brain begins to normalize this high-octane environment. This creates a physiological baseline. When the stress hormones finally begin to ebb, instead of feeling relaxed, you might feel a strange sense of withdrawal. You might feel off, restless, or even more anxious because the lack of cortisol feels unfamiliar and therefore unsafe. Like a person addicted to caffeine who feels a headache without their morning cup, your brain might unconsciously trigger a stressful thought just to get that hit of adrenaline it has become accustomed to. This is the physiological trap of chronic stress. This leads us into the cycle of rumination. When we feel an internal sense of wrongness, our logical mind desperately tries to find a reason for it. We think, if I feel this bad, there must be a cause, so we begin to dig. We revisit old mistakes, we overanalyze current relationships, and we catastrophize the future. We are searching for a solution, but the act of searching is what keeps the stress alive. This isn't problem solving, it is circular thinking that offers no exit. We aren't moving toward a resolution, we are merely marinating in the fear. Perhaps the most damaging element is the fear that this state is permanent. The thought, what if I'm like this forever, acts as high-grade fuel for the anxiety fire. This is a secondary layer of stress. You are now stressed about being stressed. This creates a feedback loop of interoceptive awareness. You become hyper-fixated on your heart rate, your breathing, and your thoughts. Every time you notice a symptom of anxiety, it confirms your fear that you aren't healing, which triggers more cortisol, which in turn creates more symptoms. It's a self-perpetuating cycle that feels impossible to break because your very attempt to check if you're okay is what keeps you from being okay. It sounds like a terrifying cycle, doesn't it? A loop where your own biology seems to be working against you. But I want to share something incredibly important with you right now. This state of constant high alert is not a sign that you are broken. It is not a permanent flaw in your character, and it is certainly not your fault. What you are experiencing is actually a signal. It is your brain's way of trying to protect you. It's just that the alarm system has become a bit too sensitive, and the timing is slightly off. Our goal here isn't to force the thoughts to stop. If you've ever tried to force yourself to stop thinking, you know that it only makes the thoughts louder and more aggressive. Instead, the real shift happens when we change how we respond to those thoughts and feelings. We need to move from being a victim of our internal experience to becoming a compassionate observer of it. The first step in breaking the cycle is to create a sense of internal safety. We need to send a clear biological signal to your nervous system that the threat is over and you are safe in this moment. We don't do this through logic alone because the survival brain doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in the language of the body. This is where we utilize our physiology to influence our psychology. One of the most immediate ways to do this is through conscious rhythmic breathing. When you take a slow, deep breath and exhale longer than you inhale, you are physically stimulating the vagus nerve. This nerve is like a master switch for your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you responsible for rest and digestion. As you breathe slowly and steadily, you are literally telling your brain, if I were in danger, I wouldn't be breathing like this. Therefore, I must be safe. Another powerful technique is to connect with your physical environment through your senses. I often suggest walking slowly and feeling the weight of your feet as they touch the earth. Notice the texture of the fabric of your clothes against your skin. Listen to the distant sounds of nature or the hum of the world around you. By shifting your focus to these somatic experiences, you are pulling your energy out of the chaotic future thinking of the DMN and anchoring yourself in the reality of the present. You are teaching your brain that you are no longer in a state of emergency. But what about those thoughts that just won't quit? The ones that pop up like uninvited guests at a party? Instead of fighting them or trying to push them away, I want you to try a different approach. I want you to become the observer. Imagine you are standing on a bridge, looking down at a river. Your thoughts are like leaves floating by on that water. You see the leaf, you acknowledge it's there, but you don't jump into the river to try and catch it. You don't judge the leaf for being there. You simply say to yourself, I see. I'm having a thought about work right now. Or, I notice there is a feeling of tightness in my chest. By creating this small gap, this distance between you and the thought, you prevent yourself from being pulled into the whirlpool. You aren't trying to fix the thought, you are simply witnessing it. This act of non-judgmental awareness is the foundation of interoception. It allows you to perceive your internal state without being overwhelmed by it. We can also reduce the brain's hypervigilance by engaging in repetitive, rhythmic activities. Something as simple as cooking, light exercise, or even a repetitive craft like knitting or drawing. These activities provide a gentle focus for the brain that isn't threatening. When your hands are busy with a rhythmic task, it provides a sense of order and predictability that calms the nervous system. It's about using your 5 senses as an anchor. Inhale the scent of a calming essential oil, feel the softness of a blanket, or listen to the steady rhythm of a metronome or calming music. These sensory inputs bypass the ruminating mind and speak directly to the emotional centers of the brain, reinforcing the message that the environment is secure. You see, the stress won't disappear because you commanded it to. It'll begin to dissolve because you've started to treat yourself with a new level of gentleness and understanding. You're giving your brain the evidence of safety it needs to finally let its guard down. At this point, you might be wondering, Maya, if I do all these things, will the feeling of stress finally disappear for good? This is a delicate question. The truth is, healing often doesn't happen because we successfully force the feeling to vanish. In fact, the more we obsess over making it go away, the more power we give to the anxiety. Real transformation begins when the stress starts to fade naturally, simply because we've learned how to listen to ourselves with a profound, newfound gentleness. Think of your anxiety like a friend who is deeply upset or even grieving. If you tell that friend to just stop crying or be quiet, they will only feel more isolated and perhaps even louder in their distress. But if you sit with them, listen without judgment, and offer them time and space, they eventually begin to feel heard. Once they feel understood, their intensity begins to soften. Your brain is the same way. When your nervous system feels safe and truly understood by you, rather than being fought against, it will naturally reduce its hypervigilance. The tension will begin to thin out, not because you pushed it away, but because it no longer needs to scream for your attention. This leads us to a crucial perspective shift. I want to invite you to look at your stress in a completely new light. What if this constant tension isn't a monster you have to slay? What if instead it is a signal from your brain, a quiet, albeit persistent whisper saying, I need your care, I need your attention, I need to know that we are okay. When you start to perceive stress as a communication from your body rather than an attack, your entire internal chemistry changes. Instead of reacting with fear, you react with curiosity. You start to ask, what part of me feels unsafe right now? Or what can I do to nourish myself in this moment? This is the essence of building a healthy relationship with your mind. However, I also want to be very clear and honest with you. While self-help tools and mindset shifts are incredibly powerful, you do not have to carry this burden alone. If you find that the weight of this stress is becoming too heavy, or if it's interfering with your ability to live your daily life, please know that seeking professional support is a sign of immense strength, not weakness. Consulting with a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist can be a life-changing step. These professionals are trained to help you navigate the complexities of your nervous system. They can provide you with a map when you feel lost in the fog of your own thoughts. There's no shame in asking for a guide when the path becomes too steep to climb by yourself. In fact, it is one of the most self-loving actions you can take. As we move forward, remember that this journey isn't about achieving a state of perfect calm where you never feel stressed again. That isn't a human reality. The goal is to develop the resilience and the tools to handle the stress when it arises, so it no longer consumes you. It's about expanding your capacity to hold both the light and the dark within you with equal grace. As we reach the end of our session today, I want to leave you with one final thought. Healing is not a linear process. There will be days when you feel incredibly grounded and present, and there will be days when the old loops of the default mode network try to pull you back in. And that's okay. When those difficult days happen, don't judge yourself. Instead, return to the basics we discussed. Take that one slow, deep breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Observe the thoughts as they pass without trying to change them. Remember that your brain is simply trying its best to keep you safe, even if it's doing so in a way that feels uncomfortable. The more you practice responding with kindness rather than resistance, the more your nervous system will learn to trust you. Over time, you will find that the volume of your stress begins to turn down. The silence that you've been searching for isn't found by fighting the noise. It's found by becoming at peace with the fact that noise exists. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you carry a sense of safety and self-compassion with you throughout the rest of your day. You are stronger than your anxious thoughts, and you have everything you need within you to find your way back to balance. I'm Maya, and this is Simply Mindful. I look forward to being with you again in our next episode. Until then, stay gentle with yourself and stay mindful. Goodbye.